Welcome to An Author's Voice, where I'll discuss the craft behind writing and illustrate the points with my own work or discuss other well-known examples. When time breaks, tracking story timelines and what they actually do to a story. The problem had a very specific shape, and I found it by running the math. Partway through Book 2 of the Technomancer series, I'd established that one day in the realm of Elysia corresponds to roughly pi days on Earth, 3:14 to 1. I chose pi deliberately. It's irrational, it never repeats. It signals a system operating on different terms than the ordinary world. It felt right in conception. 14 chapters later, Pamela, an intelligence analyst on the Earth side of the story, is in a scene I'd written as taking place during the pre-inauguration period. The weeks when a new president-elect's transition team is vetting appointments and nothing is confirmed yet. I went back and calculated the actual Earth date using the chapter's Elysia day count and the formula I'd established. The result was unambiguous. We were past the inauguration by more than a week. Every reference to pending confirmations, to the transition team still operating, to McAllister being vetted rather than installed, all of it was wrong. I had three options. Change the ratio. Change the inauguration date, constitutionally fixed, not a serious option. Or accept what the math was telling me and revise the political language. I kept the rule. And here is the thing I didn't expect. The rewritten version is better. A tax evasion discovery against a sitting national security advisor is a far higher stakes event than the same discovery made against a nominee. The pi days rule, by being inconvenient, forced the scene to become more dangerous. It gave me a story I hadn't planned. That crisis is what I actually mean when I say tracking story timelines. Most craft advice treats it as a continuity problem. Keep a spreadsheet. Check your dates. Make sure your pregnant character delivers at the right month. That part is real and genuinely mechanical, and getting it wrong produces a specific kind of reader embarrassment. The mechanical problem has solutions. Index cards, spreadsheets, a document with a column for Earth dates and a column for Elysia dates and a formula running between them. I built exactly that for Technomancer. But the continuity problem is only the surface of a harder question. The harder question is how the reader experiences time. Not whether your dates add up, but whether a decade feels like a decade. Whether a morning that takes 40 pages justifies its length. Whether the reader feels the weight of what has passed when you tell them it has. These two problems look like the same problem. They're not. The mechanical one has a solution. Be diligent. The craft one has a discipline. Every choice about what to show versus what to summarize is a small act of trust between writer and reader. Every skipped period of time is a request. Trust me that nothing worth your attention happened here. The reader can feel when that request is false. Another past makes this distinction impossible to ignore because the problem is structural. Paul Taylor isn't just living in a timeline. He's in conflict with one. He died in a lab explosion and came back 54 years earlier in his own body, with everything he'd learned and lost intact. He knows history, except that knowledge is expiring, progressively and irreversibly, because his interventions are changing things. He keeps a notebook, a physical notebook with dates and events from what he remembers as his first trip through, alongside columns for what happened this time. I gave him that notebook because he needed it. He can't predict stock prices anymore. His disruptions moved those markets years before the companies he remembered ever peaked. He prevented the Challenger explosion, knew the date, knew the O-ring failure, knew the cold morning of January 28, 1986, in a way that gave him enough leverage to change it. The paths were definitely diverging, he notes, reading through those columns, even if only in small ways so far. The craft question his situation raises is one I didn't have an answer to going in. How do you write a character with foreknowledge without making every scene pure dramatic irony? The instinct is to let the reader watch him see the future and let that double vision carry the weight. But foreknowledge that never fails is omniscience, and omniscience is structurally inert. It can't be surprised. What makes Paul's situation interesting is precisely the moments where the foreknowledge fails, where history has moved, where his confidence is a liability. The notebook is not a competence document. It is a reckoning. He is sitting with evidence that the future he knew is no longer the future that exists, and the difference between what he expected and what has happened. That's the place where the story actually lives. That gap taught me something I couldn't have gotten from the Technomancer spreadsheet. Knowing your dates isn't the same as knowing what your dates mean. Paul knows exactly what day it is. He is still wrong about what that day will bring. There's an asymmetry between how an author lives in a manuscript's timeline and how a reader experiences it, and that asymmetry produces a specific kind of failure. I spent months in Book 2 of Technomancer, accumulating a fine-grained sense of how much time had passed for each character. The reader experiences the book in the time it takes to read it. Days, not months. The texture of elapsed time that feels obvious to me has to be built into the prose. Through accumulated detail, through the physical evidence of change, through characters who feel the weight of what has passed in ways that are visible on the page. The Pi Days rule forced a specific version of this into visibility. At the book Too Close, Finn and Elara are in the immediate aftermath of the same events. But immediate means something different to each of them. He's 2 weeks out. She's 4 or 5 Elysia days out. They are asymmetrically wounded by the same story. That asymmetry doesn't resolve itself just because I know about it. It has to be rendered so the reader feels it. What both of these books have taught me about time is that how a writer handles it is a statement about what the story believes time does to people. Does it heal? Compress? Bury? The answer shapes everything. Pacing, chapter structure, what gets a full scene, and what gets a sentence, where the story pauses to let the reader feel the weight of what has passed. For Paul, time is a palimpsest. The original is still visible under the revision, and the story lives in that gap. For Finn and Elara, time is architecture. They are building toward each other across a differential neither of them fully controls, and the structure has to bear the weight of that imbalance before it can carry them anywhere. In both cases, time isn't neutral infrastructure. It's the material the story is made of. The continuity spreadsheet is just how you make sure you're using it correctly. When you're writing a character who knows more about time than they can say, through foreknowledge, reincarnation, or a well-maintained continuity Bible, where does the story's real tension come from? And have you ever had a rule you invented force the story into a better version of itself than you'd planned? Thanks for listening to this episode. If you'd like to hear or read more of this sort of thing, subscribe to my email list and follow me on social media using the link below, or search online for Charlie For It, and you will likely find me. Until next time, thanks for following along. Voices for this recording provided by Speechify. All content written by Charlie For It. Any opinions expressed in this recording are solely the author's. Learn more at charliefora.com.